Okay, today we're going to go over how to set up GNS3 in a home virtual lab. GNS3 is a network emulator, which means without having all the hardware devices, you can set up routers and switches and cables, configure IP addresses, OSPF, open shortest path first, static addresses, so you can practice on a network without, $20,000 worth of gear. What's something similar? Cisco Packet Tracer. Anyway, this is fairly tricky because you're setting up virtual machines at home. And if you don't have a technician in the family or some very good directions, this is a challenge because there's options. So we got a little bitty picture here. I'm going to go ahead and go to the bigger picture if it'll pop up. It'll show. There it goes. So that's a screenshot. You know what? You know what I'm going to do for you guys? I'm going to actually show you this is VMware Workstation Pro 15.5.6. Look, here's GNS3 running, right? And it runs and we leave it alone. We connect into it from another virtual machine like Windows 10. Let's see if Windows 10 will talk to us. There's Windows 10. I got Kali on here. We're not ready for this stuff yet. Hold on, we're not ready. Let's talk for a bit. So we're setting up GNS3 in a home virtual lab. So GNS3 has two components. Both components are referred to as GNS3. Two components with the same name. You want to talk about confusing instructions. So install GNS3. Well, which one? The .ova or the all-in-one, application? So the GNS3.ova is actually what we use to create the virtual machine that we don't manipulate directly. We connect in from another virtual machine. You know what? I'll pop this back up one more time. Okay, so this is the GNS3 VM, right? We don't type into here directly. We use, say, Windows 10. Give me a password here. We can use Ubuntu, we can use Debian. We just need to pick another virtual machine. Come on up. You can do it. Spinning little wheel. Come on, spinning little wheel. People are waiting. There we go. Now, what operating system is this? This is Windows 10 Pro. But look, here's a GNS3 on the desktop. We click that, and that's like a connection manager that gets us to the GNS3 that we don't type into directly. And then ignore Kali, ignore the Ubuntus, ignore Keyoptrix. These just happen to be other virtual machines. But we're not ready for all this. Let's go back to the briefing. All right, so we got GNS3, which is running on VMware. All right, so you have four choices for your virtual machine hypervisor. A hypervisor contains the virtual machines. It contains, controls, and manipulates. It manages the virtual machines, all right? What are your hypervisors? VMware Workstation Pro, which I have. VMware Workstation, right? Doesn't have as many features. I think this one's free. This one says Pro. Does anybody know what the word Pro means? I can actually put a definition in here for you, I think. Can we go back up to the top? Can we do it? There it is. All right, so I'll put a definition in here for you. Pro equals money, right? And then there's features, and you get support. Cool? Anyway, so if you're in a professional environment, you want the Pro. If you're a starving college student, then you need a workstation to play on. Now you got a competitor. You got VirtualBox, which I believe is free. That's from Oracle. And as far as I know, I'm not an Apple guy. Can I type in here? Yeah, there we go. Let's put Apple. I believe. VirtualBox. All right, go back up. There we go. I believe that's by Oracle. Right? VMware is by the company VMware. All right, so if you want something free, you got Workstation, you got VirtualBox. I don't know if Fusion costs money or not. And if you're an Apple person, then probably you're using Fusion. What do I know? I don't have any apples. My loss. else? All right, so your VM hypervisor may contain images, like the GNS3.OVA, right? That's the actual virtual machine we're connecting to, right? It has all the cool software and emulation stuff. Then you need a second virtual machine, which is hosting, that you're going to put the connection application on. That was that really brief when I popped up Windows 10 and you saw the little, what was it, little gecko or lizard on the desktop. So you have two GNS3s. One's the virtual machine and one is the connection software. And when you read instructions, the author may not always differentiate between the .ova and the .exe. Unfortunately, when you download this, it might show up as GNS3 blah 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 .bin binary, you know, and then you convert it to an exe on the desktop that'll run. So you might see a different extension when you're downloading. All right, can we move on? Oh, and I say .ova. Let's talk about that. So you have two extensions for operating systems and images. Well, more than two probably. You've got ISO, right? And that's a kind of like a DVD, right? So it'd be the same as putting a DVD in. So if anybody's ever loaded in, Windows 8 or Windows 10 or Server 2016 with a DVD, that's a .iso. Now, you can also have a .iso that's not on a DVD. It's just software. It's just a file. And we can bring that in when we make an image. Now, a .ova is basically a .iso plus a configuration file. So anybody that's installed, let's say, Windows 7 Professional for a business, and you put it on 10 machines, you have an office with 10 machines, well, you want them configured the same way, right? You don't just want the stock .iso. You want to put some extras on there. And I don't know how many extras you can put. Configuration file, security features, maybe there might be some sort of web browser control that keeps the employees from hitting their Facebook. I don't know. Anyway, OVA is like a .iso plus a configuration file that sets it up a specific way. So a .ova can be very convenient if you want machines set up the same way, right? .iso is just the operating system, and then you set it up the way you want it. This is if you're going to be configuring or setting up multiple computers the same way, or if you don't want to put a lot of work into it. If you're a beginner, which one do you want? The .ova. Because if you're using the .iso, you need some really good instructions. The .ova does a whole bunch of stuff for you. Anyway, just so that we know what that means. Let's look at a concept. All right, so I have a laptop computer. I have an HP laptop computer. On my computer, I have one operating system, one. I can have more than one. I could partition my hard drive, my solid state drive to have Windows 10, Ubuntu, whatever I want. But I chose to have one operating system. Now, how do I get more operating systems on my computer to play with? Well, you put a hypervisor on there. VMware, VirtualBox, VM Fusion, and then you host these virtual machines. So I really only have one operating system on my laptop, but because I have VMware, I can host more than one and not run the risk of messing up my hard drive, my solid state drive. Because these guys are all contained, and VMware tells them to behave and not mess with mine, right? But look at this. I could put Windows 10 Pro on my laptop, that's my original, that's how it came from the factory. Put VMware, and then I can put GNS3, the virtual machine. I can have a second copy of Windows 10, a virtual one, because we really don't want to be going back and forth, right? If we can help it, we want to keep all these guys that are talking together contained within this. Because if it gets out, oh my goodness, if this one is talking to the original Windows 10 and it makes some changes, my laptop might not boot. Right here, I can just delete this, reinstall it as many times as I want, and it leaves my laptop alone. I could also have a Kali image, an Ubuntu image, many images. Let's take a look at how we can combine things. All right, so we have 4 options for a hypervisor that I know of. What are they? VMware Workstation, Pro, VirtualBox, Fusion. If anybody knows a fifth, please feel free to tell me, right? But trying to keep it a little bit more simple. Now, we know that if we're setting up GNS3, we need that on there as an image. So that's a given. So if you have VMware Workstation, you're going to put on GNS3, then you're going to pick another operating system, that you can use to install the EXE for GNS3 that connect to this one. So here's my configuration. I've got Windows 10 Pro on my laptop. Then I put on VMware Workstation Pro to control and corral these guys. Now, since I'm using GNS3, I put that on there. Now, I had to pick one of these that I could install the connection software on. So my configuration is VMware Workstation Pro. Then I've got an image of GNS3, right, the .ova, the 500 meg. Then I've got a copy of Windows 10 that I put a desktop application on that connects into this nice little image. And I could have used VirtualBox, GNS3, and Ubuntu. I could have used VMware Fusion, I think that's Apple. Did I say that? With GNS3 and Ubuntu, right? Anyway, this is what I went for. All right, what else do we have? Well, whoops, where is it? Where is it? I know you're excited to get to here. I know you're excited. There's Kali too. I know you're excited to get to the actual machine. Just hold on, we'll get there in a second. All right, so we have multiple configurations. So that makes it more of a challenge. So what if somebody that has VirtualBox is watching this video? Well, the overall concepts are the same, but there might be some different steps. I've done VirtualBox. There was a few more things to click on. Now, let's see here. All right, so we're going to look at VMware Pro 15.5.6 as a hypervisor installed on my Windows 10 Pro laptop, and then we have at least 2 virtual machines. This is kind of a recap. Does that make sense? This is a recap. May get rid of this in a later iteration. You want to get into the machine, don't you? Hold on, a couple more. All right, so we're going to look at an actual installation that I keep teasing you with. So pay attention to the GNS3 virtual machine, you know, the .ova, the Windows 10 virtual machine, and the GNS3 connection application. So ignore the other VMs that you see pop up, the Kali, the Ubuntu, the Kioprix. Just remember, don't get it twisted. Oh my goodness. One more slide and we can finally get there. Now, sometimes when you install something, you need to install additional software or services. These are optional. So there's discretionary software. Let's see. So Wireshark, you have a choice to install WinPCAP or an alternative. Remember back Windows 7 or 8, at one point they took the media player out of it and you had to go to the Microsoft site to install it. It was optional. So let's say that you want to be able to watch videos and play CDs and they've taken it out and they say, well, it's optional. Well, it's not optional for me. I want to play my music. Give me that back. And you go download it again. VMware has an optional VIX API, and this, I think it's underneath tools or something. Anyway, if you don't put this on VMware, GNS3 won't run right. And unfortunately, as far as I can tell, it doesn't come with it. I had to go hunt it down and get it to run. I had to run this. Otherwise, GNS3 popped up an error and said VM run.exe is missing, and I'm not happy. So I had to go get this. So I don't think it's optional. Well, I guess you could have VMware without GNS3, and then you don't need it. So anyway, I found out I had to load it within the guest operating system. Are you ready? Finally, here we go. Here we go. All right, so this is VMware Workstation 15.5.6 Pro. So my computer, notice that I've got a type of a version of Kali here, Kioprix, Ubuntu 1, Ubuntu 2. I don't know why I have 2 versions. We don't care about these. And then you got GNS3, we care about this. We got Windows 10, we care about this. And Kali's on here for something else. But do you see the 2 ones in green that are running? Let's go ahead and power this guy off and then on again. Can we power you off? Power off. Power off. Oh, solid state drives, so much better. You know what I could slide Kali up to? Now if I touch it, it's going to try and open, but that's okay. I don't care. Go ahead and open. There it goes. Watch it open in the background. All right, so we're going to ignore everything up to GNS3, our network emulation software. And that's the actual machine running the software. And then we're going to use Windows 10 to connect to it. So let's go to GNS3. So I'm going to power this up. So if you're playing with networks, sometimes you know you have to power the router on, then the switch, and then the workstations. Anyway, let's power up GNS3 VM. Power up. A lot of slides to get to this point, eh? I mean, what came first, the VMware demo or the slides? I don't know. This is really weird. GNS3 actually uses Ubuntu as its operating system. Ain't that crazy? Which isn't a standalone version of Ubuntu. They're just using a core of Ubuntu so they have some operating system that they can run it on. You know, this is GNS3. It's like 500 megs. All right. Ooh, you want me to configure stuff. No, I'm not going to go in there and do it now. I think everything's really configured. It just likes to fuss. We'll see. If it doesn't work, well, then I got to go back there and configure. You always have to configure ETH0. Anytime you set up a virtual machine, you're like, okay, for the network, do I want host, do I want bridged, or do I want NAT? Usually I have more luck with bridged, and I don't even know the difference. Bad teacher. All right, let's boot up Windows 10 and connect into this puppy. Windows 10. Let's boot you up. You see this requested power option is already in progress. That's probably when I accidentally tapped Kali. Let's see if Kali booted up. Yeah, see? You even touch these things, they boot. Click. Go away. Yes, yes. That's what I get for trying to slide things around. There it goes. I know what a lot of these error messages mean. Okay. Let's boot up our Windows 10, and this is the virtual machine image. This isn't the overall operating system on my laptop. So this bad boy's within VMware Workstation. And we boot. There we go. So this is Windows 10, but you see this little connection thing, right? So this GNS3 blah blah blah.exe needs to be downloaded to the desktop. Well, how do you get it here? I don't have luck with USBs and virtual machines. I mean, sometimes they go, sometimes they don't, so I kind of cheat a little bit. Right? So I can get into my Gmail. Right? I can get into my Gmail. Go Gmail, go, right? And I can use an attachment to pull this in, or I could go to the website and then pull it down. You know, but sometimes when I want to put things on here, like a Cisco, you know, image, an image that I can use, right? A pre-built image, you know, and it's a bunch of megabytes, and I'm not sure where it is, and I have a copy somewhere else. I'll just email it to myself as an attachment. Anyway, let's go ahead and pop up GNS3. Finally. Now remember, we're running a mini server here, a mini server that connects to the main GNS3. This big boy here, right? All right, this is our mini server. Click and click. All right, let me see if that ETH0 is really giving us trouble and needs to be configured. All right, where is this coming from? This is coming from GNS3, the VM, right? Okay, so we got some projects. Let's see if I can open a project. Oh, we're still connecting. Sorry. This is connecting to the local server on Windows 10, right? Then that's going to connect to the big server. Projects library. Will it open? There it is. So ignore this little line that I don't know how to get rid of. But anyway, I set up a couple of routers, and I set up a cable, and I turned everything on, you know, and I checked it out, and, you know, I did my homework. I did my lab work. This is the whole point. We're not really supposed to be learning how to set up virtual machines. It's just that there's not a lot of clear instructions. Yeah, there's steps that are skipped. Sometimes it'll say, install GNS3. Well, which one? You know, the OVA or the executable? Or it'll say, go ahead and place it on VMware. VMware is the name of a company. Do you mean VMware Workstation, VMware Workstation Pro, or VMware Fusion? So I see that there's not a lot of clarity on this. It took me, okay, I'll admit it, it took me like 9 hours to set this up, and I had to ask some questions because the step by step, it went step 1, step 2, step 5, step 4, step 8. It was out of sequence and missing things, and they'd reuse the word VMware or reuse the word GNS3 without saying, hey, which one? And I didn't even know where to install things. Do I install it on the VMware itself, or do I install things on the little image inside? So do you remember that little exe on the desktop? Let me see if I can get this down. I honestly didn't know that this went into Windows 10. For all I know, I was supposed to install this on GNS3 or by itself. I didn't know that this went here. I didn't know that when you have to install the tools, let me see if we can talk about the tools here. Remember that vix.api? Do you see where it says reinstall VMware tools? So you have to click on VMware tools, and I think I still had to go and get the vix.api from the web because I was getting error messages on boot. I need to do another video on that, right? Because this is supposedly optional, but it's not optional for GNS3. Anyway, this VMware tools in VIX took me at least an hour and 45 minutes to figure out. All right, let's connect back in. There we are. There's that. Let's go. How about? Oh, hey, here's something that's important for the labs. Let me see if I can get this to pop up. Do you see where it says new template? Right? I actually had to click new template. Install from GNS. Next. Router. Cisco 2600. Now for some reason, and I don't know why, the instructor didn't care for the Cisco 2600 image that was built into GNS3. He's like, you need to go ahead and grab this one. So he created another image, and I think if you click install, this gives you an error message or something for some reason. Maybe it's an old version. And then you have to click import, and then you have to click from a file, and then pick the file that has the new Cisco 2600 image on there. The instructions are pretty clear. Let me see if I can find out where I put it. So, see this Cisco 2600, 124, TAC 15, TAC T14. Let me pull this down. I had to actually, let me see if I can find downloads. Downloads. Recent files. All right, you see this bad boy, this binary? So our class instructor was nice enough to put this up on Google Drive, and he says, hey, download this and import it into your GNS3. So I had to download and import this. Cool. And then here's the all-in-one that I had to install. Anyway, so there's different images. I can actually check this out. Ignore this line. Do you see how this is homework that I did before? And what did I call it? I called it, I don't remember, file. Come on, file. Open project. I called it static routes. So this little setup actually has some information. Configure. Configure, the only thing I know how to do here is to rename it. That's it. But let's take a look at this. I'm going to try and get an error message. Here, error message, console. See, this node must be started. So you need to turn it on before you can go in there and edit it. So let's turn this bad boy on. Yep. Now I can go into console. And this is where you can do the Cisco iOS commands. I keep thinking iOS is Apple, but Cisco uses that too. You can go in there and configure this router or switch. Cool. And this is R1. I can do the same thing with R2. Yeah, there's R2. And we're administratively down. Anyway, this is where you type in your commands and you hit enter if it stops. Hit enter and you can get out of that. Anyway, this is where you'd hit config T and type your commands. You know what else? Oh, I just want you to go away. What else? Do you see this little cable? Genius here actually took a CCNA course back in 2003, and I forgot to add the cable. So you cable snake, do you see it says X? You click on it, right? And something changes. You come over here, you click again, and then you have to configure it. There's a way that you can tell it, hey, make connect from ETH0 to ETH0. So don't forget your cable snake. All right. Unfortunately, we didn't cover VirtualBox or VMware Fusion, right? And I only used Windows 10 to connect in. Oh, I know what I did. One of these Ubuntus, I put Ubuntu on there, and then I put, oh, I wonder if it would work. I wonder if it would work. This would be, I'll give myself bonus points if I can make this go. So I put an Ubuntu image, and then I did a GNS3 on the Ubuntu image. Let me see if this is it, and it was working. I have to try. I have to try. Because remember, you don't have to connect in with Windows 10. You can use something else. Let me see if this works. I was going to do it with Kali, but Kali's tricky. You got a command line, a whole bunch of stuff. Okay. You still booting? Ubuntu? And remember, I'm fairly newer to there it goes. Newer to this, so who knows what'll happen. I just remember I had Ubuntu running and I taped it. I'm not sure if it should be the version 2. I would think. So I'm just showing you Ubuntu versus Windows 10, if it works. If I remember my password. Are we still booting? I think we're still booting. Come on. We're excited to see this. Okay. All right. Ubuntu. Well, I know I did it on one of them. I got something other than Windows to go. I don't see my little connector here. Oh well, curiosity. All right, let me kill this video before it gets to 30 minutes. Okay, hope this helps. And peace.